Alright, let's take another journey into 16-bit Agrabah with the Sega Genesis version of Disney's Aladdin from Virgin Interactive. Now, there's a lot of different platforms you can choose from if you're looking to experience Aladdin's adventures in video game form, including the Super Nintendo, Game Boy, PC, or even an NES version only released in Europe. And it's interesting to note that all of them are different games. So I've already reviewed the Super Nintendo version here on Undertow, but with my recent exploration of my Genesis library, I thought this version was definitely worth dusting off for a proper comparison. The story of the animated classic Aladdin is translated to the Genesis in similar fashion to the other versions, as a side-scrolling platformer. But while the Super Nintendo version had more focus on acrobatics, like bouncing off of enemies and the ability to grab ledges, like in Prince of Persia, the Sega version gives you a sword. Now, don't expect to be cutting off anyone's head or anything, but this more violent edge adds some interesting gameplay differences. And even the apples you throw can take out the mobs of thugs and creatures in your way, so combat definitely plays a larger part here in the Sega version. And while a sword-wielding Aladdin might not fit with the plot of the movie as well, it definitely makes for some good gameplay, and especially if you like stabbing stuff. Now, the other main difference from its Nintendo counterpart that you'll see is the striking cell animations. Virgin Interactive recruited the talents of Disney animators and processed their drawings into the game's sprites, resulting in an animation style very similar to the original movie, and it really brings home the spirit of the film. When this game was released in 1993, it was easily one of the best looking games ever to hit the Genesis, and this played a big part in its commercial success. And luckily, underneath those great-looking graphics is a pretty fun platformer, with engaging level design that places you in the various situations from the movie. There's plenty of gems to grab, and stuff to stab, and tricky jumps, bonus games, and everything moves along at a brisk and entertaining pace. Aladdin zips along pretty fast as well, so the controls might take a level or two to get used to, but they're definitely solid and they match the energy of the game nicely. And like most classic side-scrollers, the challenge definitely ramps up as you progress through the game. There's also 3 different difficulty modes to choose from that allows for gamers of any skill level to take on Jafar and rescue Jasmine. So when it comes down to my personal preference on the best 16-bit Aladdin game, the Genesis version just barely comes out on top. It just seems to exude a bit more style and energy and of course, swordplay. And for me, it stands out as a much more memorable gaming experience. But they're both pretty different games and they're both lots of fun. And they're definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of the film or quality platform games in general.